Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Glenn Southern and I'm the Aroid artist. This week we're going to talk about this little rock looking thing which is actually Leca. So this is light expanded clay aggregate, so it's little bits of popcorn clay that we use as a substrate. So I use loads of different types of Leca, as you can see. There's this one from Westland and there's this one that's like an industrial bag that you can get, and it's an amazing product if you know how to use it. So let's have a look at how I use it and see if it's something that you can use in your planty life. So when I started keeping plants in a little bit more of an organised fashion, I started with soil. I think everybody does at some point start with soil because it's the thing that you usually get handed from somebody else. It's the thing that's easiest, and it's the thing we know about really, is that, you know, soil is what plants grow in. And as you look into what else you can keep plants in and if there's any benefits to other things, then you come across a couple of things. One's called pon or lecousapon or lechusapon, depending on how you say it. And that is actually a similar sort of thing to Leca in terms of the fact that it's mainly mineral rather than organic. But Leca is this, or these here if you have a look in the other camera. And these are little clay pebbles, and they're basically superheated clay that's expanded and popped like popcorn. So it basically pops up into these little nuggets, and that's pretty much what they're like. And they're super lightweight, and they're very porous, as in they've got lots of holes in them, and they to some degree absorb water and moisture. And the way that we use them is, well, it's different in different ways, but the most common use for it is to put it into a pot like this, for example, and plant your plant in it and keep your plant in it with the water that goes up into the base of the Leca. So why is that different than soil then? So soil tends to hold on to moisture, and it compacts down into the pot or into the ground. And what that means is that you can't get aeration. No air can pass through it because it's compacted, and the moisture is sucked up and held there, and that instantly leads to one major problem, or can lead to one major problem, which is root rot. Now the way we combat that is we can put other things into the soil, and with Aroids, and most of my collection is Aroids, as you can see, mostly what we do to combat that is, if we use compost or soil, we add perlite or pumice or other mineral based products that lighten the mix, and it basically means that you can get more air into the mix and more water will drain out. And for an Aroid mix you might even add in bark, and you might even add in charcoal and other things like that to improve the mix. But with Leca there is no mix. It is literally the clay in a pot with some liquid at the bottom, and I'll explain why we do that, and the plant and the roots. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'll talk to you a little bit about what types of Leca there are, and then the ones I've used, and then how we use it in most cases. So let's dive straight into that bit first of all. So as you can see, these are the two main types of Leca that I like to use. So there's this one here, this bag is called Clay Granules Lightweight Hydro Leca. This is by a company called Westland, and it's basically these lighter or browner pebbles, and they look quite decorative. I quite like them. That's a pot there that's got just this clay pebble in it, so you can see that nice brown colour, as opposed to this other one. I'll just put this one down. And this one's called Vitalink, and it's exactly the same product. So it's clay, although it's a different colour, and it's treated and superheated to the point where it pops like this, but it's just a darker grey. So the way I generally use this darker one is to put it when I'm mixing it in with other soils or other mixes, or as a base. So one of the ways that we can use Leca is to put it in a pot first of all before you put any of your other substrate in. So even if you're using things like sphagnum, if you put this in the bottom, you know you're going to get good drainage out of the bottom. So I think that's called potting up or crocking. And that's one way that I use it quite a lot. You'll see that in almost every one of my plants at the bottom is about 1 to 2 inches of Leca. So that's quite common in a lot of people's processes. But now you know the two types that I've got, that there are plenty more. If you look on Amazon, you'll see hundreds, but there are lots and lots of types. And what it basically does is it goes into a pot. So it might be a good time to have a look at the pots. So the pots need to be two things, or two parts. So let me try and explain it to you. I'll do it on a small one. So here we've got an inside pot, which is a normal plant pot that's full of holes, and I've got water in that one, and a catch pot, or a pot that hasn't got any holes. And basically the process is, we would take our leca and we put it into the pot, presuming those holes aren't, make sure those holes aren't too big, and fill that to the top with the leca and the plant, and it sits in this pot. Now the reason we do that is because the plant needs to get its nutrients from somewhere other than the soil, because there is no soil. So we keep liquid in the bottom of here that has nutrients in it, and we'll talk about that last on the video. Now these pots, they don't have to be like this at all. They don't have to be, this shape or this size. You just need one inner one with holes and one outer one to catch the other one. So another example might be this one. So this is a net pot from a pond suppliers, and just a normal everyday, this is an IKEA papaya white pot, and that sits nicely in that. So you size it up and that gives you exactly the same thing. Now this one doesn't go all the way to the bottom, so that's quite a good thing sometimes, because once the roots come out of the bottom of here and you're putting this net back in and out to check it, the roots could get crushed underneath. So if it doesn't quite go to the bottom, that's usually a good thing. So that's probably the one I use the most, or the system I use the most. And for example, you can see it here right next to me. So that's an example of how it would look and how it would work. So you've got the pot inside, you've got the outer pot, and the plant, and even the pole can sit in that as well. So if you can see it in close up, there you go. So you can see it quite close up there. Now you can get up to a bit bigger than that. This is from a company called Leca, and this is a self-watering pot. And basically what you do with this one is, if I just take out the inner workings, you'll see it's got a base and then a tube up the side with a little float here. So you pop that in, you fill it full of leca, and this float tells you what level the water is. Now this is better for pond, if I'm honest with you, which is more of a gravelly kind of affair. And the reason I say it's better for pond is it's got these little dips that go down into the feet. And with leca, I normally, if I'm going to use leca in here instead of pond, then I will put a wick, which is usually something like a microfiber cloth or something like that, to suck the water up into the middle of the leca. And I leave the water quite low in pots of this sort of size. And that's obviously a bigger one, but there are this type, which are this is off just an Amazon product. So it's a larger net pot and just a white catch pot, but it only goes halfway down, so there's a lot of space here. And that means you can have a lot of water in there. Now again, when you're using leca, you generally want the bottom of the leca in some water, or have a wick going down into it. And certainly for plants that are just going into leca for the first time, you would need them to get access to that water. So it doesn't always work well for new, unestablished, or not very well established plants. The roots need to be close enough to get to that water at some point. So that you be careful when you're doing it with larger pots. And the last one is like an orchid pot or a clear plastic tub. So if you drill a hole in that about 3 inches from the bottom, then any excess water can drain out at that level, and it means that it won't allow it to fill up too much, and it won't allow your roots to rot. So let's just talk a little bit about how we use it first of all. So the first thing you want to do is clean your leca. So take something like a sieve or a tray that you can drain water through, put your leca into this and wash it through in your sink. So you can see me doing it here, and this is a large brown, just basically a really cheap £5 or £5 tray that I got from a shop, and it's got holes all around it and it's plastic, so I put the Leca in. I give it a really good swill around, and that removes all of the dust and the debris and the dirt from it, and then you've got nice clean Leca to start working into your pot. And the next thing you do then is you bring that back to your work table and you put that into your pot. So you've got some clean Leca, you've got a pot, you've picked a pot with an inside pot and an outside pot, and now you've got to think about what plant's going to go in there. So I don't really convert plants to Leca. So the reason I don't do that is I find that the soil that comes off them never fully comes off them. So here's an example of a plant that I'll convert to Leca to show you. So I'll take it out of the soil first of all. I'll wash the roots off. I'll wash them as thoroughly as I can. Get rid of all of the soil and the debris and anything that I can that could cause a problem when it goes into the Leca. And then that would be, once it's clean enough and you've got as much off as you can, that would be able to be planted into Leca. But I don't really like that method, mainly because it generally does leave some debris, and that can lead to those kind of problems. So what I like to do is use plants that have been rooted in water. So I'll give you an example here. So this is a green princess. So this is a propagation. It's just come off the side of a green princess mother plant. And it's got really nice clean white roots ready to be potted. Now if we pot that in soil or compost or any kind of organic matter, even sphagnum, that will attach to this root, and that's quite normal, that's quite natural, and that's where some of the problems can occur, especially because with aroids, a lot of them are epiphytic, or they basically can grow on other plants or other trees mainly, and they grow up trees. They don't really always need soil. They quite often need a really light mulch, and that's why you hear people saying light and airy substrate, or like an orchid bark in the substrate, because these plants aren't planted in heavy soil like a tree. They're up higher in the mulch, so that on the top surface their roots do go down into the soil, but once they go up, their aerial roots go into the trees or the branches or whatever they can get onto and get some water from. And generally they just don't need, they don't always need soil. So something like that is ideal to go into Leca, because it's come from a water propagation, it's got clean roots now, and if you put that into Leca, it will stay like that. And because it's quite a long, well-established root already, you can see there, that will take really well in Leca. So that will almost certainly be a good candidate for Leca, and it will stay in that kind of pristine quality. So let me show you one that's been like that but moved on a little bit further. So I'll just pop that back in the water for now. We'll use that one later. So let me show you this one. So this is a Philodendron Shangri-La. So this has been in this all of its life. So since it was cut, it's been in a pot with drain holes in it, as you can see. You can see there, all of the roots are nice and bright around where they're coming to the bottom, and around the edges you can see them. Hopefully you can see that. The Leca, the water is like this, and it's, oops, there's me spilling it. It's basically up about 2 or 3 inches into this pot, and that's sat in there while the cutting has been growing. So that's an exact example of how I would do it with a plant that came out of a cutting. So let's take this out and let's take a look at the actual roots and see what they look like. So just watch me tip it out now. So I'll take one of these pots and I'll slowly tip the Leca in, so excuse the noise. So that's gone in now. And that is what you're left with when you use Leca. There's 2 hanging on there. I'll show you that on a close-up. So on here you can see that has actually grabbed onto the Leca, and it adheres to it with its little little roots that come off the roots. So these roots coming off those roots, they split and go on, and they grab onto things as a root system does. It's very what we call fractal in its makeup. So it gets smaller and smaller divisions. But look how clean and bright and even green those roots are. And that's why I like Leca. And you might know, if you follow my artwork on Instagram, you'll see that I do a lot of these plants floating in the air. I'll show you a few on screen now. And that's how I take these kind of photographs. I just suspend this up like this and then photograph it like that. But I love these roots, how clean they are. And that is what you will get from any Leca plant that's working well. Now, you do sometimes get root rot. You can find that you get some, like a little bit of root rot in at the end if you have too much water below the pot, but it's very rare. I've only ever had it on 2 or 3 plants. And that's very, very different than when I'm using soil. I get a lot of rot when I use soil, which isn't that often these days, unless it's a really light airy mix. So with that plant, I would put that, and this one will stay in Leca. So to plant it, I literally just place it back in the pot, keep it exactly positioned as I had it when I took it out, like so. And then I just put one, there's already a layer of Leca in there, as you can see. And then I just fill it back up with Leca. Make sure that it's all around it, around the base. Pack it in if you need to. And that is a repotted plant in Leca. So that's exactly how it came out. And that would go, it came out of one type of pot, so we'll put it back into another type of pot. So that now would sit in something like that, or any pot that can hold the water. And we'd fill that up to about 1/3 of the height of the pot. Now, what chemicals do we use to then feed it? So this is where it gets quite contentious. So when I started using Leca, I used a product called FloraGrow. Now, FloraGrow is a great product, it's well known in the industry, and there's 2 problems with it from my point of view, and one is because I'm lazy. So to use FloraGrow as the water with nutrients in it, you have to mix it in 3 parts, and you have to read the instructions on the label, take a little syringe, take out that amount, so whether it be 2 ml, 2 ml, 2 ml, or 2 ml, 3 ml, 2 ml from the 3 bottles, and then mix it into your water and then put that into your pot. Now, you have to level the pH first of all, and you have to use what's called pH up and pH down. Now, none of that's hard. I did that for about a year and it was working fine, but it's quite labor intensive. You either have to mix a lot up and then have it ready for when you need it, or you have to, if you don't mix a batch up, then you have to do it regularly as you need it. So I found that tedious. I found the pH leveling tedious, and I just wanted a better solution than that. So I switched to this one, which is liquid gold. And liquid gold is, you just literally give it the mix that it says on it. So for semi-hydroponics, which this is, or for Leca, then there's a set amount that you use, and it's on screen now. And then all I do is I then put that in the pot, and that's basically what I do. I keep the water at the level that I need, and that's, works for me really, really well. What some people do, as I said earlier, is they take an acrylic jar and they drill a hole about 3 inches up from the bottom, and that hole will then never be able to, you can never fill higher than that in the pot because it will just drain back out. So instead of having a catch pot, it's in there's a pot with Leca, and it's got just a hole a little bit higher up on the side. Now, the only problem with that, or the good thing about that first of all, is that you can do what's called flushing out. So you can basically take water and just pour water in and flush out the old water. So that is a positive for that method. But what I find is, because the roots are going to go down, they're not going to get out anywhere, they're going to be stuck at the bottom, they haven't got anywhere to go, and sometimes that causes rot. So that, a lot of people I know have great success with that method, and I have 2 or 3 that have got that exact system. But it's not my favourite system. My favourite system is this one that I can just pull out whenever I want, check the Leca, wash it through, wash the Leca, and then you're away. Now, one thing you must be careful of is think about the level of where, let's use another one, let's use a tiny one here. So here's a tiny Leca pot, you can see the roots coming through here, hopefully. And not many on that one, but so if you think about the height of this pot here, and you think that if this was a new cutting and it didn't have that long root, the roots might only be halfway down. when you first pot it up. Now if your water's only at the bottom, it may not soak all the way up, and that's why usually I put in a wick. So let me just show you what a wick would look like. So this is a microfiber cloth that I use for a wick. I basically just stick it into 2 of these holes, so one at one end like so, and then one at this end like so, and then I generally leave that dangling down and pull it up here so it's halfway up this pot like so, and then fill that with Leca. And then what that does is when you pull that down, it stays within the Leca there. So it will always be wicking up into that lower third of the Leca, and this will be dropping into the water, and it will constantly be bringing it up. So even if the water drops below that 3rd level, it can still be bringing it up. And for a pot like this, that's exactly what will happen, because it's only the pot is only coming down to there. So that's a great way. I do that with a lot of plants with Leca, and that constantly, because it's microfiber cloth, it doesn't rot, it doesn't smell or anything like that. And you know there's always, even if you drop the water below that level, you know there's always going to be water at the bottom of this. And that's quite a massive pot of water really, so it's never going to run out, or very, very rarely runs out. So you can go, you know, you can go all winter with a pot of that nature without even checking on it. So it is super, super useful for lots of reasons. So that's my experience with Leca, and hopefully you're either on a journey where you're going to try it, or you're already using it and you've got maybe tips and tricks that you can add to all of mine and pop them in the description down below for me. So in summary, there's a number of benefits to having Leca. So first one for me, I think I've already said it, is it keeps pests at bay. The fungus gnats can't nest in there, and generally it's cleaner overall. So I do like it for that reason. It's definitely less messy than soil. So for second reason, you know, just for the convenience and the less mess. You do spill them occasionally, so they do, you know, they do get on the floor, but you can live with that. Cost-wise, it's actually reusable, so it might cost you more up front, but you're getting that back in the long run. You can wash it and reuse it, so it's not usually a major problem. So on the flip side of that, the cons, you've got to buy new pots if you haven't got net pots or pots with holes and catch pots. So that can mean that you've got to invest in a little bit of extra money for that. You've obviously got to buy the nutrients, so you're going to have an expenditure on that, but you would probably be feeding your plants anyway, so that's not a huge problem after you've bought your initial lot. And that's really the cons. They're the main cons. I use about 70% of my plants are in pon, and I'm going to cover that in a future video. And then the rest of them are either in a mix of an Aroid mix with a lot of bark, or they're in Leca. So I do love Leca for certain types of plants, which I hope I've covered. I hope you're enjoying these kind of videos, and if you are, give it a thumbs up for me. It does help us get in front of other plant enthusiasts. And don't forget, we're trying to build this new channel, so please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll let you know when we upload new content, which is every week at the moment.